Good morning, students of class 9. Welcome back to the e-classes. Now today we'll continue our lesson in history. Forest transformation in Java. We were talking about that, and we have talked about kalangas also. Now let's see number 1, 4.1, the woodcutters of Java. Kalangs. They were the skilled forest cutters. A community of forest cutters were called kalangs. When Java split between the Mataram kingdoms, when the Java was divided between the Mataram kingdoms, 6,000 families of kalangs were divided equally because they wanted the expertise, kalangas' expertise to cut down the trees. So 6,000 families were divided equally between these two kingdoms. We have talked about there so far. Now we'll continue. Without their expertise, without their know-how or the knowledge of cutting the trees, without their expertise, it would have been difficult to harvest teak, a hardwood teak. It would have been very difficult to harvest these timber, the teak. And for the kings, that is Matarams, the divided kingdoms, the kings of those divided kingdoms, and for the kings, Matarams, to build their palaces. The kings also, they needed timber, teak, for building castles, palaces, forts, and they needed the help of the kalangas. So that's why 6,000 kalang families were divided equally between these two Mataram kingdoms. We'll talk about point 3. When Dutch began to gain control over the forest, when Dutch came over there and colonized and they started controlling the forest, when they gained control over the forest in 18th century, we are talking about 18th century, when Dutch colonized Java and took over the forest, the Dutch tried to make kalangs work under them. The Dutch forced them. They tried to make kalangs work under them. But the kalangs were not ready. They thought that the forest is ours. Why should we work and cut down the forest for them? So the Dutch tried to make kalangs work under them. In 1770, the kalangs resisted. They were not ready. In fact, they were against the Dutches. The kalangs resisted by attacking the Dutch fort. The Dutch had made a fort there, and the kalangs, they attacked the fort at Johanna, name of a place, Johanna. There kalangs attacked this fort, but the uprising was suppressed by the Dutch because they were quite superior. They had the firepower. Kalangas were unarmed. They had nothing to save themselves. So the Dutch had the guns, they had the firepower, and naturally they suppressed the revolt or uprising by the kalangas. So now in our next part, this is 4.1. Now we have 4.2. We'll do in our next class. The Dutch scientific forestry. What do you mean by scientific forestry? We'll talk about that in detail and I'll explain properly there. So scientific forestry means cutting down all the trees and planting one type of trees, that too in a row, and for timber production and so on. So we'll talk about that. So 4.2, in our next class we will do Dutch scientific forestry. Today this much for. and this is the revision we have talked about. And stay safe at home, and keep on watching the video every day, make a habit, and learn from the book as well. Go through this point, listen carefully, and use your net packs wisely to learn, not just to enjoy and pass the time. So use your money and packs wisely and time. So that's all. Since we don't have the class, we are not having the class right now, but the time is running out. Time will not wait for us. We have to do it. We have to learn. So that's all for today. Thank you for watching the video, and we'll meet in our next class. That's all for today. Thank you very much.